Chasing paper today.
Yo, what is good? It's your boy B Moore, joined by my co-host Rustin Stewart, and this is the From New York to the Shy podcast. Russ, what it do, bro?
Yo, man, I'm so excited for this show, B. I've been looking forward to this. Yo, I'm on cloud nine, man. I'm ready to go. How you feeling over there in the Shy?
I am doing great. The weather is beautiful here in Chicago, and we have a special guest. We have Spicy Madi. She is a relationship coach and a professional matchmaker, and she is here, and she is going to drop a ton of knowledge for us. For weeks and months, we have had our listeners give us relationship questions and tell us that they wanted to hear more about relationships, and just quite frankly asking us questions that we don't necessarily feel equipped to answer. We've done our best to kind of answer questions, but we really wanted to get somebody in here who was a professional, somebody who is
That actually
trained
knows
in
what they're talking about?
exactly, someone who actually knows what they're talking about, someone who is a trained professional. And so we have that for you guys today. So excited. We have Spicy Madi, and she is going to be joining us coming up next. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining the From New York to the Shy podcast. We have a special guest joining us. She is a Los Angeles-based relationship coach, a professional matchmaker, and CEO and founder of The Spicy Life. Let's give a very, very special From the New York to the Shy welcome to Spicy Madi. Madi, thank you so much for joining us.
The crowd goes wild. So happy to be
crowd
here.
goes wild.
Thank you for having me on. Super excited to talk to you guys.
All right. Thank you. We are so excited to have you as well. So before we get into the questions that we have, because we have a ton of questions to ask you, but we want to know a little bit more about you before we get into our questions. So just tell us a little bit about the Spicy Life and how you became a professional matchmaker and coach.
So the Spicy Life is my relationship consulting firm that I started over 10 years ago. And it's where I help couples and singles become the best versions of themselves. They unlock the power of their passion, therefore attracting their purpose mates. And so I specialize in helping you become more magnetic so that you can be more in alignment with the person who is intended for your life, the person who was put on this earth to help you fulfill your mission, what God put you here for. That person helps empower you, uplift you. And oftentimes we don't know ourselves well enough in order to recognize where our areas of weaknesses are and what's repelling us from love. So you come into the Spicy Life when you need relationship coaching or dating coaching, and you are ready and you're at that point in your life where you've gone through all the phases, right? Like all the negative phases, right. the hope phase, the toxic phase. And you're like, okay, I'm done. I'm tired. I'm ready for my purpose mate. I'm ready for true love. So I created a 90-day 5-phase program that stands for self, passion, intimacy, communication, and learning to say yes. Those are the 5 ingredients that I teach you. And we do those over the course of the 90 days. And it's a transformational process.
And you literally just answered my next question, because my next question, I'm going to have you say that one more time, because my next question was Spicy. That's not just like a fancy nickname or a hot Latina nickname. That is actually an acronym. So for the people, even though I'm sure you are spicy, can you tell people what Spicy stands for one more time?
Yes. And I'm actually a Latina. So I'm very proud of both of my cultures. They're infused in everything that I do. I'm Black and Mexican. And so I represent both of my cultures. And most of my clients are actually minorities as well that come to me. And they're like the superior human who is, successful at everything that they do in life, but they're just needing to tap into that love department. But your question was, what does Spicy stand for? And that is self, passion, intimacy, communication, and learning to say yes. And those are my 5 fundamental ingredients in what I teach. And yes, learning to say yes. You don't know how hard that one is for folks.
Well, that's something that I've just recently gone through. And can I call you Spicy, or do I need to call you Mari?
No, you can call me Spicy. Everybody calls me Spicy.
Okay, so spicy, that's what, not to cut you off, but that's, I've been learning that and we talk more about it, but just the power of saying yes and changing
Yeah.
that whole mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. If you've ever taken like an improv class or you've ever read any book around like leadership, the power of yes is extremely important. Oftentimes we'll hear it as like the exercise called yes and. But when I teach yes, it's not just like saying yes to the unknown, but it's also what are we willing to sacrifice in our beliefs that aren't serving us, and what are we willing to replace them with, what beliefs that are more in alignment with our relationship goals. And oftentimes we have these walls up, we're guarded, and we're like, ooh, I'm waiting for the person who's going to come and tear down all these walls. And I'm like, well, why don't we tear down the walls before they get here so that there's less work for them to do? Let's shift our beliefs around love so that he or she is not set up for the okie doke and taking 3 years, trying to get your walls down to find out how great you are. Let's do that now.
Right.
Awesome. All right. Well, look, let's go ahead and get right into the questions that we have for you. So first off, I'm going to ask a super general question because a lot of times you don't know what you don't know. So nothing specific. I'm just going to ask, what are some of the common mistakes that people make in relationships?
In relationships or dating?
Dating relationships, yeah.
Okay. Well, dating and relationships are different.
No.
What phase are we in?
That's a good question. I like dating, but it's your question, B. So you ask whatever you want to ask.
Well, can you give me both?
I can give you both. When it comes to dating, common mistake is that we are allowing people to usually choose us, and we are not an active participant in who we want, right? So part of like my process and my program is knowing who you are, what you want, and what you have to offer. And also discovering what's your product differentiator on the market, right? You guys, humans are my products. So if you don't know what your product differentiator are, there's a lot of or a lack of confidence when it comes to knowing what sets you apart from other women or men on the market. And so really having a clear understanding of that, but then also not waiting for someone to pick you and you actually going after what you want. We often operate in dating from a fear of rejection. So we're waiting for someone to give us a signal, someone to come up to us, someone to speak to us first, someone to show us that it's safe, for someone to make us feel welcome and like as if we should be letting our guard down, versus us being in that power position of like, I'm going to shoot my shot. And if I don't get it, if this person isn't attracted to me or this person isn't interested in me, then I move on to the next because it's a numbers game. But usually we don't do that. We don't have that mindset. And we're just waiting for someone to just like land on our doorstep. And that doesn't happen. So I would say being open is a huge dating mistake that we make. And studies show that even for women, when we take initiative, when we introduce ourselves to you guys, and when we're attracted to you guys, we are more likely to be satisfied in our relationships and more physically and mentally attracted to you guys when we open ourselves up more versus waiting for y'all to choose us.
Makes sense.
That's dating. Okay. Now I'm gonna tell you relationship.
Okay.
The biggest mistake that we make in relationship, which I'm a communication expert. I got my master's in communication, is communication. The communication breakdown. We think that our true authentic self is how we should show up in a relationship, and we don't tailor our message to our audience. You guys have a radio show and you guys know what your audience wants, what they came for, what they're looking for, how they are receptive to the message that you have to deliver, what's the best time to, post. Like you guys tailor all of this information to your audience to make sure that they can download and process, but we don't do that for our partner. We oftentimes are like, well, this is how I was brought up. This is how I communicate. If they don't get it, that's their bad. And we should be tailoring our message when it comes to relationships towards the person who is in front of us. We have a different message that we send to our mom. We have a different message than we send to our boss. We have a different message than we send to our bestie, right? We should be talking to our partner the way that our partner can receive it. And oftentimes we don't take the time to really do the research and learn what motivates my partner. How does my partner communicate? What do they need in order to process this information and receive it in the most loving way? And if that means that we have to grow and do some personal development, then we got to grow and do some personal development. But oftentimes we don't do that research and take that time. So that's the number one common mistake I see in relationships, communication.
Wow, you are dropping jewels already. You've been on the show for what? You've been on the show for 10 minutes and now have already changed some lives.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm
all
ready
right,
to go out and
next
tackle now.
question.
I'm like, just off of that spicy. I'm like, oh, I'm ready to go out and get out there.
Right. Marty, in this age of online dating where things are so impersonal, you know, we live in a time to where it's more natural to meet someone by swiping on your phone or by meeting them online than it is to meet them in person. So if you choose not to date online, if you're one of those people, what's the best place to meet a woman and what's the best approach? And what are women looking for? Because a lot of times they say they're looking for one thing, but their actions kind of say another.
Yeah. So, okay. So first question is, where's the best place to meet? And then second question is, what's the best approach?
Yes.
Okay. So best place to meet if you are not open to the dating apps or you're tired or maybe you're taking, a detox, best place to meet in person is where the person who you desire hangs out. So if you don't know what you want, you don't know where to go. Like, you need to know what kind of person you are interested in dating. Are you looking for an athletic woman? Are you looking for, a man who's in the stock market? You need to be like where these men frequent and these women frequent. So a great place and a common place or common stomping ground is to make sure that you always go to any invitations that you're invited to when it comes to social gatherings. Usually the most way that we meet people are through friend introductions. That's number one when it comes to relationships. But if you were thinking of like actual location, I'm into fitness. So I'm going to go to the gym because I want someone who has similar hobbies and similar interests. And then one thing that I always get from people when I say go to the gym, because there's nothing but people who care about their health there, is, well, I don't want to interrupt somebody's workout. I don't want to talk to them because they're in their zone. And I'm like, okay, people are also in their zone everywhere that they go. Like, break the ice. You're going to have what I call a spice breaker. And what you asked was like, what's the best approach? No matter where you meet them, if it's at like a block party, if you're meeting them at a cookout, if you're meeting them at the gym, if you're meeting them even at the mall, I don't care if you're going up to someone and having a conversation, already have some questions in mind after you've introduced yourself that you want to ask. But the actual like step-by-step process is you're going to give them a compliment first. So we start with a compliment, right? Then we're going to introduce ourselves, ask them what their names are, and then start to look for common interests and things that you guys can share. So it's more than just like what brings you to a gym like this or what brings you to a bar like this. We're not going to go, we're not going to go over that. We're going to let them know like, hey, I came alone or I came with my friends, but I'm interested in making a new one. Do you think you're a good friend? If so, why? Like, we're going to throw them off a little bit and start asking them questions about themselves to see if like we're compatible and can they think quick on their feet. We're going to be a little bit witty. You want to use some humor with it, make some jokes, but you always want to have some spice breakers. And what I call my spice breakers are these like crazy questions that most people aren't going to ask, so that way you're more memorable. So if I ask you guys, okay, what is it, fellas? Like, I just introduced myself. I gave you guys a compliment. You guys are so, cute, or I talked about how much I like your Air Jordans or whatever. Then I'm going to be like, okay, I'm wondering, because I'm having a debate with my friends, DC or Marvel, which one is better? Like, which one is killing it? What would you guys say?
Right. I would say Marvel.
I say the same.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Then we start talking about comics and the next movie that's coming out. And then I start getting on a different topic, start talking about Fast and Furious and how I can't wait to see it. And then I mentioned, if you're not doing anything later, we should be friends and go see it together. Like, I'm going to open up a conversation that's going to get us to how can we spend time together one-on-one? How can we get to the quality time? But I'm going to do it in a way that's not just like basic. You're not going to remember the girl who's like talking about just nothingness with her friends. You're gonna remember the person who's actually asking you questions about yourself and who's asking you like off the wall things that are unusual. If you could only eat one cereal for the rest of your life, what are you eating?
And
Isn't
spicy,
making sense to you guys? Like crazy questions.
And spicy, just so our listeners know, a tasteful compliment. All right, fellas, like not a.
Yeah, we're not gonna be like, this is the nicest booty in here.
Right.
No, it's
But
gonna be
I
something
mean,
physical. Your hair is beautiful. Your
right.
shoes are amazing. I love your dress. You have the most effervescent smile in here. You light up a room. You're striking. You're gonna give compliments like that. You're gonna affirm them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we talked about that on an earlier show, Spicy, too, about just questions people ask. And so many people go to, where do you live? Where do you work? Those questions put you in a box.
Yeah,
And once you ask me those questions, I'm pretty much tuned out, because I know that what my answer is going to be, like, if you're interested.
yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like, I don't like those questions at all.
A great question instead of what do you do for a living? Because oftentimes people are uncomfortable with sharing that because they feel like they're going to be judged or sized up for their income. A
Right.
better question to ask instead of what do you do for a living? Because we also don't want to keep you in the realm of work. That's not how you really develop
Right.
interpersonal relationship. Is what are you passionate about? So like when you're not at this bar, when you're not at this
Right.
movie theater, when you're not at this sporting event, what are your other passions? What are you doing for fun that excites you? And then if they tell you what they're passionate about and they're like, oh, I collect stamps, or, I'm really into baseball. Like you can ask them, oh, is that what you do? Are you able to transition that into like career? Do you run a business doing that? You can then, if you really want to get to know like what that person does for a living, ask them, have they been able to transition that into a passion project? But don't go right off the jump with like, what do you do for a living? Because that instantly screams, how
Yeah.
much do you make and can you take care of me?
Yep. Yep,
Right.
exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Go ahead,
So
Russ.
you meet this woman or man at the gym, and you listen to this podcast, and everything's going good, and you get the number, and you go on like 3 or 4 or 5 dates, right? So
Mhm.
when do you share this information with your family and friends? How much do you talk about your dating life with your friends and your family? And are there things that you hold tight that you don't share, or how much, Spicy?
I feel like if things are going well, it's one thing to share that you are excited and you're getting to know someone and you guys are still developing a friendship. It's another thing to share with people the ins and outs, the negatives of the relationship, right? You go on three
Because
or
your
five
friends don't
dates.
forget.
Yeah, they do not forget. So I'm very big on like keeping it private and personal until you actually trust that person and until you guys have been consistently dating and that person has shown up consistently for you and you actually know who you're with. Oftentimes we rush,
Right.
we get excited. It's, anxious attachment style usually. And we are like, ooh, this is the one. And
Right.
oftentimes we haven't even allowed like a month or two to pass by to see if this person can continue to show up in their love and light like how they should. And if you guys are even compatible. So if you're still in the chemistry phase where it's just like, ooh, I'm bothered, I'm lusting this person, it's feeling good, I would not share. Now, when you get to the finding out the compatibility, like, can I merge my life with this person? That's when we start to share. And oftentimes
Okay.
I'll have even clients that are like so excited about a new guy that they met. And they're like, and my birthday's coming up next week. And I'm going to invite him to my birthday and introduce him to all my friends. And he's like, whoa, 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 we're not there yet.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
Right.
Yes, exactly.
And then the feelings get hurt. He says he might come and then he doesn't show up. And then it's like pure devastation because you were excited about this person, but really you were pushing this person into a level of closeness that he wasn't yet ready for because he wasn't sure about you. And quite frankly, you shouldn't be
Exactly.
sure about him yet either until you guys have established all the levels of intimacy. And by that, I mean,
Wow.
let's not rush physical intimacy. That one should be last. But until you have reached emotional intimacy with him, intellectual intimacy, spiritual intimacy, recreational intimacy, financial intimacy, then we can start thinking about physical intimacy. But oftentimes we skip all those and we go straight to physical and then our feelings get hurt.
Wow, Spicy. Man, can we have her on every week? So my next question is, like, after that goes down, so this leads me into my next question. Are you free to do whatever you want in a new relationship until you have that exclusive conversation? Or what and how much information do you tell your partner? Like, what you're doing on the side, if you're dating, like, how do you play that, Spicy?
We're going to play that with transparency. So what that means is if you are not in a committed relationship, what we're not going to do is give the perception of commitment unless we have had that conversation. So neither parties are going to pretend that they're in a committed relationship and as if they're not seeing anyone else when you're not in a committed relationship. So unless that has been communicated, yes, you have the liberty to date other people. I actually recommend that all my women and men date if they are not in an exclusive relationship. However, if you know that you are giving the impression, for whatever reason, that you're not seeing anybody else, or the person has brought it up and you've made them feel as if they're the only one, now you're misleading. And that's deception. Okay. We oftentimes will say, well, like, I'm not dishonest because I didn't say it, I didn't directly lie. No, but you weren't transparent. And transparency is you being able to tell the truth, even if it wasn't asked. So if you are seeing multiple people, which I also recommend that my women do as well, let the man know I'm seeing multiple people until you take me off the market. Because guess what? It also puts some fire under your ass.
Right.
What's your reason for that, Marty? Why do you recommend your ladies to date multiple guys?
Well, one, because they shouldn't make a decision on you until you guys have mutually made a decision that you want to be together. So until you guys have expressed and communicated that I don't want anybody else but you, then it should be I'm a free agent. I'm not going to play on a team that hasn't given me a contract yet. Or I'm not going to play on a team that hasn't signed me yet. So why am I giving up all of my options and my scouts and having my, living my best life when we haven't gone there yet? So no, date multiple people. Let him know I am dating multiple people until I decide and you decide that we want to stop dating multiple people. And oftentimes that will put fire under men's ass because they're like, well, wait, I'm actually like, I don't really want you and nobody else. When you like us, when you care for us, you will not want to share us. So if we're honest about you not being the only one, trying to be the only one, it makes you guys rise to the occasion. And if you don't, and you're fine playing, being one of many, or you guys aren't really that interested in us, it still allows us the opportunity to potentially meet our person without wasting time with you. And so I let my ladies know, like, in this interim process of dating, we're gathering research. We're just gathering research about the most qualified candidates. We're gathering research about our likes and our dislikes. We're gathering research about, things that we enjoy, that we want more of, our deal breakers. But what we're not doing is falling in love with you, because I don't believe in falling in love. I believe in rising in love. Falling in love is just free falling without a parachute. Rising in love is actually taking steps with each other. You take a step, then I take a step. You take a step, then I take a step. But I will not be taking 10 steps without you taking 10 steps too. Does that make sense?
That's dope.
Right.
I love it. Yeah.
And before you ask your question, B, let me just ask this real quick. Is there such a thing of like being too available? Spicy? Like
Yes.
if so you're dating, and then every time the girl that you're dating hits you up, you're available. And you don't let her know that there's other people, because I feel like people want what they can't necessarily have right away.
So yes, there is part of the art of desire where when someone is inaccessible, it makes you crave them more. However, I think that you should have a life, whether that person's hitting you up or not. You should have a life. You should have your schedules. You should have your things that you enjoy. You should have your passion projects. Now, those passion projects will make you happier, more fulfilled, give you an opportunity to teach someone something. You have more information to share. It makes you a more interesting person. But what happens is someone comes along who sparks your interest, and you throw those passions to the side. You stop hanging out with your friends and doing the activities that you did with them. You're no longer there for family or handling even your work responsibilities. And what that tells the person is you will prioritize me even when I don't make you a priority. And that's when there's a lack of desire, because if someone doesn't do their own self-growth, if they're not walking their own journey, that means that when we get together, you will not have anything to pour into me. You will be 100% dependent on me for your happiness, 100% dependent on me for your joy. And that's a lot of responsibility. And most people don't want to handle all that. So when that person calls and you already plan something with your friends, or which you should not be waiting by the phone for that person to hit you up. If you've already planned something with your friends, you let them know, I can't do 3 p.m. on Saturday because I already made plans. But what I can do is Sunday brunch at 12 if that works. Like, let them know I can't do this, but I can do this. And give a specific. Right. Don't be like, but I'm open next week. No, that's too general. I can do 12 o'clock on Sunday or 3 p.m., on Monday. Like, give them a specific time and let them choose which time, if they really want to see you, they'll make it work. But what we don't do is like jump through hoops and like cancel on the people who we care about. Because guess who's going to be there as soon as y'all don't work out? You'll be bringing back to the same people who you dissed for that person.
Happens time and time again.
Right. Right. So Marty, what are some tips that you could give men about making a woman feel loved and secure in a relationship, especially if she's had bad experience in the past that have left her feeling insecure or given her like those insecure tendencies?
Yeah. So that's a great question. I think that we should have open conversations about past relationship experiences. What are you coming into this relationship having experienced, and what did you learn from those experiences? I think men should be guiding the conversation with women and asking, okay, so you made this mistake with your ex. Well, how did you recover from it? What did you learn from that? How are you not going to repeat that same mistake? And what are we going to do moving forward differently so that we're not in the same boat, so that we don't struggle with insecurity, so that we don't struggle with social media? That's a huge one that comes up time and time again for my clients, is social media boundaries. And us not knowing really how to navigate this tool and what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. So that's a huge one that I always advise. Have a conversation about social media. What does it mean to you? And what are the deal breakers around it? Can I like other people's photos? Can I follow exes? Are you comfortable, with, people in my DM? Do you need my username and passwords? Like, what is it that you need in order to feel safe and secure? And oftentimes the person will be able to tell you like, well, I don't really like people calling you after 12. That makes me feel, uncomfortable. Or I don't like when, a woman's walking by and you turn around to look at her. Like, a woman will tell you what she needs, but we're not asking enough. As like, man, you guys aren't going in and being like, tell me, what's right or wrong, or tell me what makes you uncomfortable, or what makes you feel secure. We will guide you, but you guys have to give us that opportunity and not call us insecure, or not call us, names, or make us feel like you're gaslighting us just because something doesn't sit well with us. And usually it is coming from something from our past. But if you're walking into the relationship having not inquired about that and you don't know, you're going to be falling left and right and making all these mistakes. And now we're arguing about things that could have been avoided.
That goes back to communication.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very tough, but I mean that's social media in this day and age is so important, because it's one of the things that it's so ingrained in our society, and like almost everyone has it, and it is like the downfall of a lot of relationships, social media. So that's great advice. My next question: men are taught to be the leaders in a relationship, especially if a woman grew up with a father in the house and they saw a man leading, they will say, okay, you're supposed to be the leader in the relationship. But when dealing with a strong woman, how do you balance the task of leading the relationship without the woman feeling like you're trying to control her? Because that can be like a tightrope that guys, because as a guy, you're like, well, you told me to lead the relationship, but how am I going to lead where if I say something, you tell me I'm controlling you? You know what I'm saying? So what are your thoughts on that?
So you're right. This is an amazing question. And my first recommendation is reading The Way of the Superior Man by David Detta. That's one of the books that I have my clients read. Okay. So very good. Have you guys read it? I heard you say you have it. Have you read it?
I have not read it. I was actually dating. I was dating a girl and she told me to get that book. Okay. And when we just met, she was like, yeah, you should read this book, blah, blah, blah. And I bought it. But then when things stopped, I got to like chapter 3, but when things weren't working out with the girl, I just stopped reading the book.
Yeah. Okay. So my book, when it comes out, is the female version. How like the superior woman navigates with the superior man. That is because based on my experience, I am an alpha queen. I am extremely strong personality, leader, always in any group I'm in, any environment I'm in. But then I also knew that I wanted an alpha king. I knew that I wanted the superior man who's an extreme leader as well. So how do two leaders come together and make it work is essentially what you're asking, while still like making the woman feel as if you're not trying to control her. So my recommendation. Can that work?
Can you have two alpha?
Absolutely. I married an alpha. But let me tell you what I had to do. Sometimes I got to sit on my hands And what I mean by that, which is the buzzword that people are often sensitive to, is submission. And
Yeah,
I don't
absolutely.
just submit. I ask for my husband to submit in return, but we don't always have to submit at the same time. It's a juggling act. Because I submit, that makes him more
Right.
willing to give me the love that I need, to cherish me. But what he needs to see
Yes.
first is that I respect him. Okay. That
Yes.
I trust his
Yes.
judgment and I trust his decision making. And oftentimes, as women, we make it very clear that we don't trust y'all's decision making. And so when we do that, it sets you guys up for failure, because now you guys are like, well, how am I going to be a leader and you won't follow? And so oftentimes you guys are going to be stronger in a lot of different areas than we are. And we have to permit you the opportunity to make mistakes, the opportunity to learn, the opportunity to fall and get back up, and vice versa. If I'm really good at something or I'm really great at something, you're not going to talk me down if, and this is, I'm like now speaking to my husband. I'm like, if we have a conversation about relationships, you're not going to out relationship conversation me. I'm going to be the leader in that conversation. And so I'll
Right.
start going into theories. I'll start going into studies and data. Like, he's not going to win that battle. So he has to know in those moments, like, dang, she always submits when we talk finance. Now it's my opportunity to submit when she's talking relationships, something that I know she's an expert at, and let her feel like she's a queen and let her feel like she knows what's best. I'm pregnant right now. So, that would even go into alignment with like my body and, my child. Like, maybe there's certain things that I know that I bring to his attention. So it is, a yin and yang and a balance of masculine and feminine energy. When do I lean into my feminine? When does that serve us? And when does he lean into, his masculine, and when does that serve him? And you asked about control, and oftentimes you guys, will put in your requests, but it's also how you say it. And this is why we go back to communication, because it's one thing to have a request, but when you have a demand or an order, I may not be receptive to that because of your delivery. And so when you speak stern to
Yeah.
me and not in a way of love, I'm not going to be, as responsive in the way that you want. But if you say it in the way that I need as your partner, and you're leading me as your man, and you even emphasize, baby, trust me in this decision making, or this is what I need, if you can't give me that, or you can't, oblige, let me know why. Let me know why, and what different decision we can make. How can we come to a compromise? How can we negotiate so that both of our needs get met? And oftentimes it will turn
Right.
into somewhat of a negotiation. Like, okay, I can't do
Yeah.
this, but I'm willing to do this. And that's what relationships are really about, is the art of negotiation, of compromise. And that doesn't mean giving up
Absolutely.
everything that you need. What it means is finding a nice balance between the both of you. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Absolutely. And you said the word submission. And before Russ, I know you got a question next. But before you said the word submission, and a lot of people have a negative connotation with that word, but like it's not. But I love that the fact that you said that you both submit.
Yep.
He submits to you, you submit to him. And I use the analogy of the Bulls back in the 90s, since I'm from Chicago. Scottie Pippen was a superstar on that team.
Yeah.
Michael Jordan was a superstar on that team. But when the game was on the line, Michael was taking the last shot. And like there was no discussion about it. Like there was no
Right.
discussion. Like and that's a way of submitting, even though Scottie handled the ball and ran
Yep.
the team basically, but Mike was taking that last shot. And I think that, if you have a quality relationship, these are things that you just know. You don't really have to discuss it when you have a well-oiled relationship, because you just know that in your area of talking about relationship, you're
Yeah.
taking that last shot. Your husband's not going to argue, but in his area of expertise, you know what I'm saying? It's vice versa.
Yeah.
So I just love that you said submit, because there's a negative connotation with that, but it doesn't have to be,
It
and a
doesn't
lot of
have
times we
to
get caught up in
be.
these words. Right. Go
And
ahead,
like,
Russ.
let me give you a quick example. I love hiking. My husband can't stand it, but he knows that it makes me happy. So what I do as a woman,
Right.
because I need my need met, is if you come hiking with me later on this evening, I'll leave you alone so you can watch the game. And he's like,
Right.
bet. So I get my love cup filled, and then he gets his, space and his, love of sports filled. And now both of our needs are met. But in that moment, he submitted. And then I like let him know, babe, I understand you need your space alone, and you have these, boundaries around your games. Like, it's a give and take situation. But he would not be willing to do that if I told him no all the time when he made his requests. So that's also like a lighter form, of submission. But when it comes to the household decision making, of course, at the end of the day, if he puts his foot down and he says like, this is a non-negotiable, I'm going to have to oblige that. I'm going to come, of course, with like my presentation of why he should consider my request. But sometimes I have my non-negotiables, but because I respect his, he will always later on say, in all fairness, okay, fine. Since you obliged mine, I will oblige yours.
Right.
And
Next question.
And I have another question, B, but that was a good question, B. And I just want to kind of piggyback off of that question. Do you find that most of because women are doing really well in careers and making a lot of money, and I think sometimes when they make more than the man, that they can sometimes demasculate the man, right?
Yeah.
Do you see that in your female clients, or you see that as an issue? Have you seen that?
So
Spicy?
that is one of the number one issues that are going on right now, is an imbalance of masculine and feminine energy, and women not knowing how to lean into their feminine enough because they are put in such masculine energy roles. When we're in any positions of leadership, control, directing, guiding, those are masculine energy, right? So we're in the workplace dominating and killing it. Even myself, I am killing it. I'm the CEO of my company and I'm a boss chick. You can't tell me nothing about my business. I'm like, I got this. However, when I come home and it's like time for me to be all about my partner, what's happening with women is we don't know how to pivot. We don't know how to turn off that switch and say, I am no longer in the driver's seat. Now I can be a passenger and relax and let someone else guide me, someone else lead me. And so it's creating this imbalance. But also what's adding to the imbalance is enough men are not being raised by men to know how to emulate what true masculine energy and what true leadership looks like. A lot of our men are being led or raised by their mothers, absentee fathers. A lot of them are being imprisoned. A lot of them are a lot of them are not able to really see what it looks like to be raised by a man, but also respecting a man. And so because of that, they don't really know necessarily how to lead. So it's like the blind leading the blind sometimes. And a woman is forced oftentimes into these masculine roles of having to be mother and father, or being raised by a woman who was mother and father and not really getting to see their mother with the juggling act of being in the leadership position and then flipping that switch off for her husband because maybe daddy wasn't there. I was raised in a single parent home. My mom was married 3 times. So I saw her in these like leadership positions, but then like running after men because she wanted to be in a relationship so bad. And it also led me to like my career path that I'm in right now. But not having it as an example, I had to like self-teach. And a lot of times people are not doing the work involved. They just want to get into a relationship and they think it's going to like switch on. And neither people really know how to govern the relationship. So it's an imbalance on both ends. It's not just women not knowing how to sit in their feminine, but men also not knowing when to sit in their masculine.
Right. That's a good point, because just a quick story. My parents have been married 51 years. So I saw that dynamic. My mom would, come to me and my brother and like, I have your daddy wrapped around my finger. And we saw that. But then we also saw when daddy was serious about something, this is how it's going down. So it was just good to see that dynamic growing up. First of all, congratulations on your pregnancy.
Oh, thank you. Yes, we hit the jackpot.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
We got a
Is
slam
this your
dunk.
first?
This is my first child, so I'm super excited.
All right. Congratulations.
Thank
So
you.
my
And it's a
question,
boy. I'm raising a little king. I'm
it's
so
a boy?
excited. My superior
Nice.
baby. Yes.
When's your due date? When's your due date?
September 1st, but I'm hoping he comes 2 weeks early because I want to have a Leo. No, I want a Leo. I'm hoping he comes early. I know, but
Well,
I
Leos are
don't
good
know.
people.
Virgo
My dad's a
men.
Leo, so
I want to see your dad's Leo news. Yes, I want a Leo son. So I'm hoping he comes early. But if not, if he's a Virgo, I love him anyways.
all right. Leos are good people. My daddy's a Leo, which I learned a lot from. All right, so my question is, wait a minute. Okay, can you truly love more than one person at a time, or is that BS?
So I do believe that you can love more than one person at a time. Your heart can be emotionally fixated or attached to more than one person. However, is your definition of love in alignment with the definition of love that the other person is? So like in the sense of, if we're dating and you have two women, if commitment is a priority for me or a requirement or prerequisite in order for me to feel safe and secure, you're not in alignment with my definition of love. So you may love me in your definition of love, but my definition of love comes with commitment and safety and security. So we now then have two different definitions of love, and that makes us incompatible. And so, yes, you can have affection for two different people, but can you have sustainability with that? Anytime you have multiple women who you are attracted to or who you have affection towards, someone's gonna suffer. You can't be every place at every time and fulfill all of our needs, and that's actually very draining for you. Back in the olden days, they used to recommend, oh, you can have 12 wives as long as you can afford it. Yeah, but someone's emotional needs are not getting met. Someone's love language is not getting fulfilled in that. Sure, you can finance it.
I can barely handle one woman, let alone more than one. I'm like, no, thank you.
I keep my husband busy, so I know he can't juggle nobody else.
Right? All right,
yeah,
so
we see care for more than one person. You can care about more than one person, but you can't handle them. Go ahead.
You can't fully love, right? I mean, we see in this time, and it's been going back for centuries, right? About, partners stepping out on one another. Do you believe that once someone has cheated that you can reconcile, or is it pretty much like done? What's your advice or answer to that?
I absolutely believe that you can reconcile, but I absolutely believe that you have to do the work in order to do that. Most people don't want to do the work. They didn't want to do the work to prevent the cheating. So the fact that now they have to be in this position to do the work after the cheating, usually it's a lot harder to win someone or earn someone's trust back if you don't go through the steps that are necessary in order to get them back to a place of safety and security. A lot of times there's shame involved, there's regret involved, your partner's punishing you, your partner isn't willing to even allow for a place of trust to reconcile. So you're dealing with, all of these negative energy experiences between you guys. And if you don't even believe that the person can earn your trust back, you're going to treat them that way. So it puts the other person who cheated in this situation of like, dang, do I try my luck and go, move on with someone else and start from scratch? Or do I really work hard to try to save this relationship? And I will coach my clients, if they're serious about saving the relationship, a great sign is signing up for my service. Like they'll come to the Spicy Life and they're like, help me save this relationship by any means necessary. I messed up in the past. I will do whatever it takes and I will prove it and work with you for these, 90 days to prove it to my partner that we want to make this work. And I see it all the time. I also see people who aren't willing to do that. And they're just like, man, get over it. I cheated. That's the past. Stop living in the past. That is not how you get your partner to forgive you. There's actual steps involved and work that has to be done. And, yes, it is a risk, because the person could potentially, hurt you again. But that's what love is, giving someone the power to hurt you and then trusting that they will not. Trusting what they will do with that
having
power.
That vulnerability. Right.
Ooh, and I caught my ring light just in time.
Good save. Great save.
Man, today is one of those media days.
It is. Now, Marty, we talked about compromise in the past. We just got through talking about compromise in different situations. How do you navigate being in a relationship with someone who refuses to compromise? Is that a workable situation?
That's not navigating then, because you can't have compromise if only one party is willing to oblige. That's called unfairness. So when we speak to compromise, and that's part of your ability to say yes, I do believe in having firm boundaries. Like, these are my boundaries, not willing to cross these. I'm uncomfortable with this. This is a hardcore no for me. Okay. These are my deal breakers. If you have a partner who is considerate and loves you, they will oblige those deal breakers. However, if it's a situation where it's a daily basis, your partner isn't willing to compromise on like big decision-making ideas or things that you need in order to be happy. So I have one client who was dating someone who refused to cuddle with her at night. And that was like breaking her heart. And that's something like small, you would think. But she was like,
Right.
dang, it makes me feel unloved. He won't touch me. He's like not affectionate. And he wasn't even willing to like sacrifice this thing. He wasn't willing to compromise. And there's a lack of compatibility right there. If the person is unwilling to say
Yeah.
yes, and all they will give you a no, and it doesn't hurt them to say yes, they just don't feel
Mhm.
like doing it, then that's not someone who's
Mhm.
willing to override their needs or their desires for the greater good of the relationship. And oftentimes it's not even a need that they're like withholding from you. Oftentimes it's just their pride or ego and them trying to prove a point.
Yeah. I mean, I guess in line with that, in a society where people are always looking for the next best thing, sometimes people do tend to give up on relationships a bit too quickly.
hmm
But when do you know when it's actually time to leave a relationship?
So I like to measure it based on, have you communicated to the person what you need? Have you shared with them
Mhm.
what that looks like? So it's one thing to say, I need you to spend more quality time with me. That's very vague. Now, what that would look like if I really communicated that to you was, baby, I like it when you take me to the beach on Sundays and we have picnics there. I'm going to get a picnic basket for us. I'm going to set it up. I just want you to show up so we can spend some quality time. If you aren't willing to show
Mhm.
up after I've agreed to like do everything after I've agreed and told you what I've needed, and I'm left hanging, you flake on me on Sunday or whatever, day that is a cue to me that we are no longer compatible, or that you're not willing to make this a give and take situation. So the first step is communication. And then what does that look like? And then you have to give that person an opportunity to follow through. If that person does not have the follow through and they cannot mirror your behavior, when you are showing them, teaching them, you verbalized it through your words, you've shown it through actions, and then you've also developed a high level of emotional intimacy and attachment, and they will not reciprocate, then you have to walk away from the situation, because that's showing you someone who they may want the relationship, but they're not willing to do the work that's making the relationship thrive. Does that make sense? There's wanting, I want to be with you, but then there's I'm willing to
Right.
be with you. I'm willing to do what it takes to
Right.
be with you. And that's what you have to look for. Is this person willing to do what it takes to be with me, or they're a lazy ass person? And some people don't belong in
Right.
relationships. Just because we love each other doesn't mean we should be together. Just because I like you a lot doesn't mean that I should be in a relationship. Some of us are not built to handle relationships, to handle someone else's emotions, to take that as, something sacred and important. A lot of us don't want to be responsible for the way we make other people feel. Well, that's what a relationship is. That's why we
Right.
call it work.
Right.
Right. So, Spicy, I was with a friend the other day, and he was like, "Oh, me and my wife share our locations on the phone." And I'm like,
Mhm.
"You share your location, so she knows where you at all the time?" But he was trying to. I'm not going to go into that. But how do you feel about people sharing like passwords in a relationship? Like, should your partner have your password? How do you feel about that? I think there's sometimes too much,
I'm
like where there's
I'm
not
for
enough
it.
privacy amongst you for
I'm
it.
for it.
Okay.
I'm for it. So, and this is why. If we have full transparency and I have nothing to hide, and this is just another heightened level of safety and security, why would I not share my passwords? Why would I not share my location with you? Now, do we oftentimes not trust our partner and abuse it? Correct, we do. So why are we in a relationship with someone who we distrust? And if we do distrust them, why are we not working on the steps necessary to bring the trust back? So I'm not against it. What I think oftentimes that happens is we don't, one, trust our partner, and then our partner also doesn't trust our decision making. So if you're someone who wants the password so that you can snoop, so that you can go in there and see if he's communicating with other women, or you're sharing your location because she thinks that you're going to cheat on her again, like what is the reason behind why we're sharing this information? Oftentimes it's just an additional step that we should be taking in our relationship of, here, my world is your world. Okay. If I trust you inside of my body, I should be able to trust you with my password. So I kind of
Right.
question people when they're like, well, I trust myself to go raw in you, which you could potentially put my life at risk, but I don't trust you with my Instagram password. You could kill me if I go inside
Hey,
of you raw, but you can't have my Instagram
Right.
password. Well, that isn't,
Right.
that's not, something's
But
off
you-
right there. What are you afraid of?
Like me and Brian have been friends for 20 years, right? And maybe we're having a conversation that doesn't even involve my girlfriend, right? But it's still, so you have to trust your partner, not just to go in your phone, just snooping and looking at your conversations too, right?
Right. So I have my husband's password. He has a group chats with his boys. I don't even want to see them. They share photos and look at this flavor of the week I'm talking to but he communicates that with me. He's like, man, B is crazy. He is talking to this girl and it's not going to go nowhere. Like, I already know and have the expectation if I were to ever see anything in there, because I don't go snooping, but if I were to ever see anything in there, I would know that it's not personal. It has nothing to do with me, but because he's communicated to me and has made me feel safe and secure in every other department in our relationship, that's not a threat to me. Now, if he has done some things that are a threat to me that make me feel insecure, I need to address those. And having the password to his phone isn't the solution. We need to go to therapy. Right. We need to go to counseling. We need to get to the root of why I don't feel secure in my relationship and why I feel like I need this password now all of a sudden, versus them just having been given to us open, freely, and willing, and in a free exchange of now we're in the next level of our commitment. I trust you with my passwords, and here's an example of that. See, do you see how it can be two different ways? Like, I trust you with my password, guys.
Yeah.
Here it is, and here's an example of that. Versus, I think you're up to no good. I need your password right now, or this is over. Like, oftentimes we're doing it because we're in a position of threat, versus doing it in a position of like things are healthy and things are going good, and this is just the next level to that.
Okay.
All right, Marty, I know we only have you we have like 9 minutes left, but we did have some questions, the email from our listeners. So we want to ask, and we asked you questions. These are all from a male perspective, but we actually had 2 female listeners email. So we want to get some female questions in.
Okay, let's do it.
I only have 2. Because we're about to get out of here. This is from a young lady. When the honeymoon stage in a healthy relationship is over, what are some ways to keep the fire going? What roles do both the man and woman have in making this happen? And does it fall on the woman to initiate a conversation about this? She goes on to say that how can a lady guide her man in a nourishing way to do his part as well?
Okay, so oftentimes honeymoon phase is dead. It was fun while it lasted. Now the realness has begun. She wants to keep it spicy. So I'm huge on games and active participation. So one thing that I recommend as a spicy tip is my spicy tip jar. Each week, you're going to put in an affirmation. Both of you guys are going to put in an affirmation in there. Baby, I love the way you cook, or baby, I love it when you work on my car. It makes me feel so good. We're going to throw an affirmation in there. The next thing we're going to throw in there is a new sexual position that we want to try. Something fun, something freaky, something that we want to do. Both of us are going to throw that in the jar. And then the third thing that we're going to throw in there is a new place that we want to go or explore, an activity that we want to do. Baby, I want you to take me to the San Diego Zoo tomorrow. Or baby, I would love for you to go to this new restaurant with me. We're going to throw these 3 tips in the jar. And each week on Friday, we're going to pull out the tip and we're going to read them out loud to one another. So either I'm getting an affirmation, I'm getting something freaky you want to try, or I'm getting a new place that you want to go. But that's a great way to spice it up when honeymoon phase is over, because each week you have something to look forward to. And you guys are actually being active participants and both pouring into your love jar, and then having something that you get to, hear that's great. I also recommend the same thing if you guys have negative things. And so it's, it's a different jar. It is your complaint jar. Okay. But you can do this for when there's conflict. You don't want to be that nagging partner. You can put an affirmation in there, something freaky you want to do, and something you want your partner to work on as a third thing. And that's another way to handle conflict resolution, so that way it's like you're not nagging him every day about picking up the wet towels. Now he can just open up the jar and he's like, okay, I got it. I need to work on this. Or he gets his affirmation, or he gets his freaky thing he wants to do. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
And our last question from our listener. How does a woman get a man's attention and let him know that she's interested without being too forward, and instead of just coming out and saying it?
Okay. So I want her to show up the best version of herself. And what that means is living her best life, having her passions, being excited, affirming him, letting him know, oh my God, I appreciate it when you call. It means so much to me when I see you pop up on my, my iPhone. I really enjoyed the time that we spend together. She's going to continue to affirm him every time he does something for good behavior. What I call that is petting the dog. It lets him know that he's performing great tricks. I want you to keep performing these. However, if he's not moving at a pace that she wants, or it's not accelerating the relationship, then she is going to have more of a guided conversation with him about what are his relationship goals and where is he leading them. And so if she's someone who's dating with intent and that's not in alignment with him, no matter what she does, she's not going to be able to get more of his attention. She can chuck and jive. She can put on a circus act. If he don't want you, he don't want you. So what you are going to have to do is like look at his behavior and how he's treating you. And if he's not fulfilling your needs, if he's not treating you like a queen and you think you're an afterthought, then that means that it's not in alignment with what you need and deserve. And I would tell her to stop wasting her time. But if he is showing up, he's just maybe not, and because we can't ask her directly, like, is she waiting for him to say he wants a commitment? Like, what specifically is she asking for in getting more of his attention? If it's just like time management, then she's going to have to be someone who like suggests, hey, baby, quality time is one of my love languages. If yours is affection, I'm going to show up more with affection. But on Thursdays, I would love it if you could take me to this show. Or on Saturdays, I would love it if we could go camping, or whatever the thing is that she wants for quality time. She's going to have to express that, but let him know in exchange for that, he will get his need met as well. Make sense?
Okay, great. And then yes. So in our last 4 minutes, if someone wants your services, do they need to be in Los Angeles, or
No.
can they be in any city? I know
You
you're
can
out of
be
LA,
anywhere.
they could
I
be
have clients
anywhere.
in New York. I have clients in Fiji. I have clients everywhere. Atlanta, I have clients everywhere. Dallas, I have weekly sessions with you via Zoom for an hour and a half to 2 hours. And then also I have a romance astrologist, a marriage and family therapist, a image consultant, and online dating profile expert. And we all come together to like do this transformational process on your dating life. And even my couples, they don't have to be in town as well. We always meet on Zoom. So you can be anywhere to get my services and to work directly with me. You just have to have an open mind and be willing to do the work.
Nice.
So how can people contact you? What's your social media? What's your info? How do people, if they want to get in touch with Spicy Mari and get some of this wonderful wisdom that you've just given us? I mean, you've been amazing. How can they contact you?
They can always play with my Twitter. You guys can always stroke my Instagram at Spicy Mari. You guys can go to thespicylife.com. Also listen to my podcast on The Spicy Life, where I'm giving a lot of relationship advice. And click and subscribe, share it with a friend. But you can always schedule a free consultation at thespicylife.com and let me know what phase of your life you're in so that I know how to direct and steer you towards your purpose mate.
Wow.
Awesome.
Well, Spicy,
Awesome.
Spicy, we love having you. You dropped a lot of jewels. I mean, the first 5-10 minutes into this interview, I was like, oh, wow. Oh, I could go out maybe right now and meet the love of my life. But we definitely appreciate you coming on, and much success with a healthy baby boy.
Yes.
Hopefully you and your husband get that Leo, because they're amazing people. So thank you again for coming on.
Thank you guys for having me. Appreciate you.
And Mari, before we let you go, we play a little game with our guests called 20 questions. But how many questions you can answer in literally 1 minute? So Russ, can you set the 1 minute timer for me?
I got you. My trusty iPhone watch. Just hold up. Wait a minute. I mean, it's usually set on 40 seconds. So when I train, that's the amount of time that my clients are doing the exercise. All right, you ready?
All right, tell me when to go.
3, 2, 1. You're on the clock.
What's the first thing you do or think about when you wake up?
Ooh, my morning affirmations. I read my scripture.
Hot or cold?
Hot.
Pizza or wings?
Wings.
Prince or Michael Jackson?
Michael.
Yes.
Venice Beach or Manhattan Beach?
Venice.
If you could choose any superpower, what would it be?
To fly.
New York or LA?
LA.
What sound do you hate?
Chalkboard.
What sound do you love?
My voice.
Who's the most interesting person you've ever met?
Like that.
My husband.
You better say yours. 10
Mountains
more
or the
seconds.
beach? Mountains or the beach?
Oh, beach.
Truth or dare?
Dare.
If heaven exists, what would you want to hear God say when you walk through the pearly gates?
Good job.
Timed.
Spicy Madi, everyone. Thank you so much. We appreciate you for joining the podcast. You have been amazing. Feel free to come back anytime. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, guys. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Spicy Madi, for joining us. That was amazing. I mean, she just dropped so many seeds of wisdom. I actually feel so much better just having listened to her and getting her views and perspective. How you feel, Russ? What'd you think about that?
It was an eye-opening interview, B. I mean, in the past, I know that I bring my issues and my experiences to the table when I meet somebody. But after the relationship didn't work, I like to say, well, they did this and they did that. But after hearing Spicy do her thing and drop those jewels, I had to look myself in the mirror and see what I did on those relationships. So, loved having her. She can come back to the show anytime. I think the people are really going to enjoy this show, B.
Yeah, I agree. I think the people are really gonna love the show. Not only was she entertaining, but very informative, and just so excited to have her. So, uh, let me see. What do we have, Russ? We don't no emails today. But if people would like to send us emails, after you guys listen to this show, if you guys have questions, comments about some of the things that Marty said, please send us your voice notes. Either contact us directly or hit us up on the email address from nyctothe@gmail.com. That's FromNYCTOTHECHI should be a lot of interesting discussion after some of the things that she said. Also, if you want to support the show, you can always subscribe. And Russ, how do they
I think we're
subscribe?
going to get a lot of subscriptions after this one, B. I think we're going to get a lot of subscriptions after this show because, that's where we're heading. I feel like we're on the same page, B, on just helping our listeners just be better. Of course, we're going to entertain them with our amazing personalities, but we also want to make people better, make our listeners better. So I think we did that with this show, B.
I agree. So definitely subscribe to the show. Tell a friend to tell a friend, especially with the type of show that we just had. Please don't just keep all of that, this knowledge, this soul food, this goodness to yourself. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Tweet us, post us on Instagram. Just let people know that we got a dope podcast going on here, and we're getting some really good guests and who are giving us some good knowledge. So I'm just happy about this show, Russ. And do you have anything else before we get out of here?
Nah, man, I think you said it all. I think we said it all. I think it was a good show, like you said. And we see y'all next week.
All right. As we always say, thank you so much for joining the From New York to the Chi podcast. Peace and blessings.
Yes, sir.
Hey, living life and grinding every day. That's the way I play. Never mind what the haters say. Chasing paper today. Living life and grinding every day. That's the way